future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com. In the future.
It's time for the Bonnie Sher Show, a whirlwind of wit, wisdom, celebrity, and the boomer life. With a little bit of this and a lot of that and so much more you don't want to miss, here's Bonnie.
Well, hello. And welcome. I'm so glad that you've joined us today. First of all, I'd like to thank Wayne Cobham for my super duper theme song. Thanks, Wayne. I am Bonnie Sher, your host and your guide through the world of Bonnie Sher, the boomer life, and the world of type 1 diabetes. Today's guests, we have a wonderful show coming up for you, and today's guests include casting director, producer, writer, he's a very busy fellow, and an actor, and his name is David Zimmerman, and my T1 co-host today from the state of Pennsylvania is none other than Jim Turner. So, if you have a question or a comment, you can follow us and follow the hashtag BSherRadio. That's hashtag BSHER Radio on Twitter. Now, please settle in and say hello to my first guest, David Zimmerman.
Thank you.
Hello, dear darling.
Hello. This is like, a party. I haven't seen you. We're finally connecting.
I know. It usually takes a Jewish holiday for us to get together.
Get those matzo balls out.
Hey,
I
happen to give great ball.
She does. She does. I mean, my mom and my aunt would always my aunt's balls were too hard and my mom's were too soft. So they could never, I liked them both. But.
Well, that's because you're a good son/nephew.
Well,
No. My mother didn't really kind of get that whole religious thing, and I remember clearly one Yom Kippur, Mother had invited guests to break the fast.
Right.
And, Mother didn't cook. But what she did is she decided to order in, and she ordered in a honey-baked ham.
On Yom Kippur.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
She didn't care. She said, I like it. Well, if you wanted to eat, you didn't say anything. You had to know my mom.
Was this like a reform temple?
In my mother's house? You got that. All right, but we're here to talk about you. As I was reading your bio, and I'll let my audience know that David and I, yes, are great friends. But sometimes, unless you read the bio, there's all sorts of stuff you don't know. I mean, I know the dish, but I never knew the dirt. So here's what I'd like to ask you about. I mean, you're another one of these fabulous people here in California in our industry who are multi-talented, multi-hyphenate. I mean, you're a casting director, you're a producer, you're an actor, you're a coach, and arguably, ladies and gentlemen, the nicest man in Los Angeles. And it's true. So
Well, I'm coming out with my autobiography. It's called My Name is Sybil.
Sibley speaking.
Sibley, so many personalities, right?
But really, how do you juggle all of that? It is my first question.
You know, I don't think about how to juggle. I do it. I just enjoy. I enjoy moving, and creating, and in fact, I was walking from the car today and into the studio, and I was thinking, yeah, if it's not just about being alive and living your life, and I have to do. Today's word was do, and create, but something positive. I mean, I'm out there now, and when I was smaller, of course, I wanted to be an actor, and I wanted to get the Oscar. I still want to get the Oscar, but no buts, and it's about creating something positive and good and something that enriches me. Like yesterday, I had a coaching, and
could you explain to our audience who may not know what you're talking about? Who do you coach? What's involved in a coaching session, as opposed to vocal coaching or acting? Or what specifically do you do? Who would come to you and why? Other than you're the best at what you do, what is it that? Tell our listeners about that. Please.
Beside acting and casting and now quote directing, I also teach acting classes, and I do coaching on the side for auditions. So these are for actors or performers or people in the industry, and it's all different kinds of actors. And yesterday I had a new student come in, and it was, it's getting to know the person and checking out the pictures, the resumes, and then working on monologues and getting the basics down. And if we both feel good with each other, if we both connect, great. I'm all into, test me out. Sometimes I'll even say to them, you know what? You should try to check out this person. I mean, I'd love to have you, but I think this person would fit you better. So I'm all about, and that's what the classes that I put together, Meet the Biz, I bring in all these different people. I know I'm jumping here. I'm sort of like
I'll catch you, don't worry.
I'm at a therapy session, but I jump sometimes.
You mean we're not?
We're not? Doctor, I have a problem.
And I have an answer. Please
do you? Yes. So I bring in different people. I bring in different casting directors. I bring in different directors, different coaches, and teachers from around L.A., Los Angeles, and the industry.
Now you're talking about Meet the Biz.
Meet the Biz,
right? Okay.
Right, where we have these different one-day classes or 4-week classes, and if people like them, they go study with them. That's what Meet the Biz is too. You get a little taste for a very low price, and if you do want to take the classes, there's 4 weeks with Lainey Kazan or 4 weeks with me or Angela Rockwood. Different kinds of classes: acting, manifestation, creating.
Good. Okay, you brought something up that when you were a child.
I had this voice back then too. Hi, Mom.
It was about, I want to be an actor. So my question then becomes, given that you do so many different things, now I do know that one thing that's pretty prevalent here in Hollywood is that, we all need to eat. And sometimes if the acting work isn't coming, we will venture into other ways of creating funds to be able to support our habit of acting. So I think what I'm trying to ask you is, if money was not your objective at all, and you could only do one thing.
Oh, that's tough.
If it was easy, I wouldn't have asked it. Can you name the one thing that if you had to give up the other ones to get everything you wanted out of the one, which one would you want to hold on to?
Can I say create?
You can say whatever you want.
I would see that. I know is very broad, so I can do it. That is such a hard question, and I'm going to try to answer it within the hour. But because what I'm thinking is that I do the teaching, I put together the classes, and from these classes, I have gotten such connections myself about people that I are now I'm working with in the film that I'm doing. I'm also I write for Ability Magazine, and through that's the connection. You know, they're all connected, and it's just, you know, one goes into the other for me now. So it's very hard. I mean, you know what? If I had to give, this is hard to say. If I had to,
Listen, it's going to be much easier to say it than to do it. So just take a shot.
okay, if I had to give up acting, that was one thing I would do.
Okay.
Now, if you asked me this 10 years ago, probably not. But
Or maybe 10 years later down the road.
right, it might pop up again.
It might.
You know?
It might. Again, I'm going to take you back to when you were talking about Meet the Biz. Tell me, who attends? Who do you market this to? How can people get involved? I mean, obviously you're here in Los Angeles, and I realize that a lot of our listeners aren't. But what is it? And then what is the crossover with people with disabilities? That's something that I'm very interested in.
Meet the Biz is, and some people say, I don't want to pay for classes. We're just going to meet people. And it's not that. They're acting classes, producing classes. And the thing about the Meet the Biz, it's everybody. And everybody coming together to work with one another. And that being said, I started teaching through the Media Access Office years ago. And that is a group that used to be under the state of California, which, quote, housed like an agency, but wasn't an agent, for actors, performers with disabilities, over 900 members.
I see.
And I started teaching classes there after being connected with Mary Rings from Born to Act Players. And then I think it was about 2008, maybe 5 years after that or 4 years after, I said, listen, we're all actors. We should all be in this class. So the doors flung open. I put a stamp and a name on it saying this is Meet the Biz, because the biz is all of us that are in this industry. And I started having my, quote, acting coach, acting teacher, Corey Allen. And he was the first guest teacher, and he became a regular teacher. From Buzz with Rebel Without a Cause,
of course,
Fame, and Star Trek: The Next Generation. And we have actors who are deaf, who are blind, who they happen to be. They also happen to be wheelchair users, CP, you, me, everybody, you know, because we also, people with disabilities, you know. I'm the labels just bore me a lot. But the thing is, I have to say them because a lot of people won't understand unless you put labels. It's like I keep hearing, well, we've got to think out of the box and this and that. It's like, get the box. What box? Why?
Right.
You know?
Right.
I don't know if that said. I'm going to jump back to what you said before. I think I know what I'd want to do the most. What I enjoy the most is seeing people smile. So whatever work that create, and like yesterday, getting back to that coaching that I did, I had a bumpy couple first days of the week, just, you know, life. So, you know, food poisoning or whatever it was. But that got over. I had this coaching, and all of a sudden I started smiling and was noticing that I was smiling because I was connecting and seeing a smile from someone else,
right,
and seeing a growth and seeing change in a positive way, unlike turning on CNN and watching the insanity of everything that's going on with the race and whatever it is, you know, for president, and just being in that moment. And just like this is what I love. And it all comes around to that. It all comes around to, now, what can I do with this? Create something and bring it out to a bigger mass. That's why I'm focusing more on film and more on getting stuff out to a greater... I'm still doing the Meet the Biz classes, don't get me wrong. They're still available. And if you want to go to Meet the Biz and check it out, it's www.meetthebiz.net. And that'll be updated soon with the future workshops. That being said, my main focus this year is creating, and I'm actually stepping into the director's shoes. So
I think you'd make a marvelous director. Because as an actor,
Right.
you know what the ears are all about, and knowing as an actor what you need in order to be directed,
yeah.
you know, and then having that ability to be able to give that to your actors. Sign me up. But now you were talking about media, the media access.
Yes.
And whilst doing my research, I read that you are actually the recipient of a Media Access Award.
Yes.
And so that you understand how many people, not how many, but the quality of people that surrounded David. The other recipients, along with David, just to name drop a couple. Well, first of all, we have Norman Lear, and actually, after you drop Norman Lear, you kind of don't.
Norman!
Norman.
Let me tell you, he
Norman.
is so amazing. He is such a sweetheart. I actually got to interview him with my dear, dear, dear friend Jerry Jewell, and it was
Our guest, no, Jerry. She was on the show a
Oh,
couple
my
of
God.
months ago.
You know,
Yes,
she has kept me alive just from her presence. I'm getting verklempt a little, but she's
that kind of woman.
well, she is
That kind of human.
She gives that breath of. She's such an amazing comedian, but she's just
So anyway, so okay. So on
Oh,
one
sorry,
side
I-
we have Norman,
yeah.
and then of course, just for a little spice, there's Stevie Wonder. How in the world did you feel when you found yourself in that in that pudding?
Well, this is a little story. I heard about the Media Access Awards when, of course, I started working for them, and I said, "Oh wow, I would love to win one of those one day and get one of those awards. It would be one of the highest awards for me." And I said, "You know what would be fun? To get an award right after Stevie Wonder gets his award and sings on stage." And
Well,
And
if you're gonna dream it.
I dreamed it. I, quote, manifested it, as my dear friend Angela Rockwood would say. And what happened was I knew I was getting the award, and then I found out that Stevie Wonder was being approached. And I went, oh, my God. And then ultimately he did, and exactly that happened. He was on stage. He sang for 20 minutes and with Denise Williams, and there he was.
Niece.
And, oh my God! And then I went on. Yeah, so it was amazing. It was
Well,
amazing.
I pray for lots more of amazing things. We're running a little short on time, and
Yes.
I'm not done with you yet.
Okay.
I want to know what's happening right now. Tell me about. I hear you have a baby.
Yes, I'm pregnant.
You heard it here.
I am creating. I have created and producing and quote directing a film called My Next Breath, a project, and it is breathing its own life. It's like a vision board, and it's a documentary about actors in a class. All happen to be a little different. One is Kathy Buckley, who you might know, one of the funniest comedians, period, and Jerry Jewell, of course. Mark Povinelli, Angela Rockwood from Push Girls. The list goes on. It's a mixed class of all different kinds of people, but it's not about their disabilities. It's about their mothers, their brothers, their lovers, the stories that come from them, and how they relate to them, and how we relate to them. And we come back 8 years later and to see if they have answered the question, which is, what do you want the most at this moment in your life?
You just gave me goosebumps. I think that's fabulous. And I wish you and your baby an easy delivery.
Thank you.
And all of the best. I want you to come back, tell me what's happening.
Oh,
with
I would love
that.
to.
Before we go, please let the audience know how they can contact you.
Oh, yes. Well, we do have a website for My Next Breath, and it's www.mynextbreathfilm.com. And right now we're in the funding stages. We just, I will announce for the first time, we just had one day of shooting a couple of days ago with Patrick Stewart. So I'm like,
You're name dropping. I
I
love
just
it.
name drop. Oh, by the way, I have to give you this since we're talking about this. This is for you. You could just, I'll open it. I'll help you a little. It's just a little, advertisement. And these magazines for you because this is ability and My Next Breath.
And if you know me, you know I do love my coffee mugs.
So you have your coffee mugs. And these are
thank
for
you,
you,
thank
too.
you.
This is one with Jamie Brewer that I did an interview with. She's amazing, incredible actress. And then this is an interview I did with Mark Povinelli. So enjoy. Ability's amazing magazine. Check them out.
I love it. And I loved having you here. And we are going to do this again.
love you.
Come on.
Mwah.
I'm loving you too, ladies and gentlemen. Say thank you with me to David Zimmerman.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
we will be seeing you soon. Okay, now before we go to break, David, I loved having you here. It was a pleasure, as always, to chat with you. And you are listening to the Bonnie Sher Show. Join the conversation. You can follow us by using the hashtag BSherRadio. That's #BSherRadio on Twitter. Coming up, Inside My Blue World, plus a shout out from the soapbox. That's my take on who got it right and who really should be ashamed. Let's go to break now with a wonderful tune that is being performed here by the late and great Nancy Lamott. The tune is What a Funny Boy He Is, and it just so happens that I have one of these funny boys in my life, and it makes my life so special. Don't ever count anybody out. Take it away.
What a funny boy he is. No one's dashing cavalier. Clumsy, yes, 2 left feet. Nonetheless, rather sweet. What a funny face is his, all a grin from ear to ear. What a silly, idiotic dear. No thing of splendor, no work of art, and yet so tender he breaks my heart. Here's a truth I've heard a while, something only wise men know. If somebody makes you smile, never let him go. splendor, no work of art, and yet so tender he breaks my heart. Here's a truth I've heard a while, something only wise men know. If somebody makes you smile, never let him go. What a funny boy he is, funny how I've come to love him so.
Welcome back to the Bonnie Sher Show. Joining me in this segment is Jim Murray, who is a member of the T1D community from the great state of Pennsylvania. We are just waiting one little second as Jim calls in. We have not heard from him, but I know he's there. So, gee, I could tell you a story, or I could tell you. Well, what I can do is take a second while we're waiting for him to wish you all a happy and a healthy and a prosperous new year. And my biggest wish for all of you is to love yourselves first. And then with that extra love, I want you to love one another. And I don't know what to say about my guest. We are just going to chat a little bit here while we wait for Jim to call in. And then I can embarrass him when he does. But I probably won't do that. I hope everybody had great holidays. I know that I did because I didn't do anything. I just decided that this would be a great time. And speaking of great times, we are about to have a great time with my diabetes co-host, Jim Murray. Say hello, Jim.
Hi, Bonnie. Very nice to meet you.
And nice to meet you also. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. And yourself?
Not bad at all. How cold is it in Pennsylvania right now?
It's above freezing, so this time of year, that's always great.
Especially when you work outdoors as you do. But I guess in inclement weather, there isn't much you can do.
There isn't much. I love this time of year for that reason.
Well, okay. Well, we started off with something that you love, and that's always a great place to start. But in the meantime, something that's not quite as lovable, perhaps, would be having type 1 diabetes. So what I'd like to ask you, Jim, is could you tell us your story about your diagnosis? And let's start with that. When were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed at age 27, which isn't so rare anymore, I found out. But I was actually misdiagnosed first as a type 2. I was sent home with a pamphlet that had an older lady on there curling soup cans for exercise, I guess to stave off the beaties. So that wasn't going to work for me. They also gave me an oral medicine, but what I did is I didn't take that for an answer because I knew that wasn't what was wrong with me. I was healthy. I always worked out. I always had a great diet. So I investigated more, and I got someone's meter and I tested myself and it said HI. So I flipped through the pamphlet and her meter went up to about 700. So right. That was a red flag that something was wrong. Right. So I called the doctor back and they said the doctor was on vacation for 2 weeks. So to call back after 2 weeks. And in the meantime, I lost about 30 pounds. I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't eat anything other than sweets, and I never really ate sweets. I always ate healthy, so I knew something was seriously wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people I was working, and the guy I was working with was getting sodas from where we were working. He asked me, if I wanted one, and finally I said, you know what, get me a soda. So he got me a grape soda, and I'll tell you what, that was the best thing I ever tasted in my life. And I laid in bed that whole night, and I dreamed about, I thought about that grape soda. I could still taste it. So right there, I knew something was wrong. And luckily, my wife and my sister found an endocrinologist Halloween night that would see me, and I went down there, and he started me on the insulin. Possibly saved my life.
Well, I would say so. Numbers like that will not, really are not conducive to life.
Right.
And so your journey thus far, let me ask you this. Are you on an MDI program, or are you a pumper? Do you CGM? How do you manage?
I was on injections for the first 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think my wife saw Nick Jonas with his showing off his pump on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked into that, and I got the Omnipod pump, and it's been great. The wireless, I didn't want the wires or the tubes, and I thought that's all that was out there. So I got a hold of an Omnipod, and I never really got used to the injections.
Mm-hmm.
People think I'm a tough guy, but when you're eating needles for breakfast, I don't think anyone ever gets used to that.
I don't think so either. And what about a CGM? Are you covered with that?
I also have the Dexcom for about 2.5 years, and
Right.
I think that's the biggest game changer. I think to be able to look down and see what it is. I have it on my phone now. I have it on my watch, so it's come a long way just in my 15 years.
It sure has. I think that although on my part I was highly resistant to the pump when that first came out, I really was late to the party on that. I've got 48 years behind me.
Wow.
And I just didn't want to be the bionic woman
Yeah.
and call any more attention to myself than already had
Sure.
been. And then, well, about 7 years ago, I saw the light and I tried it and I can't get rid of it ever. And then it was the same thing with the CGM. I now, I usually give myself, 6 hours or so in between changing out my sensors. Yeah, once I take it out, just to kind of run around the house and say, I'm free, I'm not tethered to anything, I'm free. And I don't know how I did without that. And in terms of talking about cure, I'm still not real sure about that, but what concerns and interests me is what about today? And talk of an artificial pancreas. And, when I hear people say, well, why aren't they putting the money into research on a cure? Well, think about it. Maybe there is a cure, maybe there isn't a cure. I'm not 100% convinced. But in the meantime, what I'm going to ask you, Jim, is to spend a couple minutes with me now, and we are going to listen to my weekly share. And so let's give a listen to this now. Hello, and welcome to the My T1 Group podcast, Inside My Blue World. I am your host and type 1 diabetes crusader, Bonnie Sher. This is my weekly share, headlines from around the globe and across the net. Some will pique your interest, inspire, or frankly, tick you off. But all are topics for discussion with our diabetes care team and the T1D community. You can find the links on my blog at bonnieshare.com. In this installment, a look at how to manage your blood sugar levels after midnight. Where is Eric Clapton when you need him? contrary to the song he made popular, after midnight, it's not all peaches and cream. My first headline share is from Glucerna. Why blood sugar levels rise overnight. The article provides an easy-to-understand explanation of how blood sugar levels can rise overnight, where glucose comes from, and where it goes while we sleep. My second share is from Ginger Vera by way of Diabetes Daily. A1C tip, the 2 a.m. finger prick. Ginger offers a way to take a deeper look at your blood sugar activity while you sleep. My last headline share is from Diabetic Living Online. Sleep safe and sound, avoiding overnight low blood sugars. Read this article to learn how the right bedtime routine can ease your mind, alleviate stress, and reduce the need to check overnight blood glucose levels. That's my weekly share. For the links to these headlines, visit my blog at bonniesher.com. Until we connect again, may your A1Cs be low and your resistance high. Okay, then. How do you handle your overnights?
Overnight, sometimes I wonder if it's the highs or the lows that are worse. The lows, waking up in a puddle of sweat after usually a nightmare. I almost always have nightmares leading up to my lows. But they're easily taken care of. You know, you can stagger out to the kitchen and then devour whatever's around and go back to bed and sometimes get a full night's sleep. Whereas sometimes those pesky highs, the blood sugar's high and you're waking up and correcting, and nowadays we have things beeping in our ears, and I've actually learned to sleep through the CGM, so I actually wake to my wife, telling me to stop it from beeping, and give a little bit of insulin and hope it's enough and go back to sleep, and in 30 minutes you're up again, and it almost feels like you never slept,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know which is worse.
Well, there's not a good part in the picture.
No.
I know that, I've tried all different ways to avoid that swing during the night. I used to wake up with very high numbers, and so I upped the gain, as it were, on the overnight basal, and then and I pretty much just did it in very small increments until I saw that I bottomed myself out in the morning.
Right.
And with all of the instructions that we see and that we read and that were offered, the one component, we can talk about how many carbs there are and how to cover the carbs, but what do you do with the other factors which drive blood sugar? And as a diabetic, we know that it can be a cold, it could be your kid pissed you off, your wife, the thing. There are so many things, and I think, it's damn near impossible to foresee all of those things are going to happen. Or, another one that gets me, and I've sort of found a way around this, I'll take my insulin before my meal, and the meal is served to me, and I find out that, it's just dreadful, or somebody put in a masked green pepper or something like that, and then now I have all this insulin in me and I don't have any food. So I've gone to now giving myself half of that dosage instead of the full, and then then
seeing what you eat. And,
right.
Yeah.
tell me this: how does the family respond around you and your diabetes? You have 2 sons, don't you?
I do. I have 2 young sons. Everybody's involved. I mean, it's not a disease you hide. Basically, I think I've heard them called type 3s before, people who care for type 1s.
Right.
But if there's a type 1 in the house, everybody is pretty much doing something to help control those numbers in one way or another. Unfortunately, about a year ago, I had a low sugar incident where, like you said, I gave myself the insulin, and I actually forgot to eat the remainder of the food, and started running errands, and next thing you know, I bottomed out, and I ended up passing out in front of my wife and my older son, and we almost put him in counseling because of it. It damaged him that bad. But now when I mention I'm low, everybody pretty much jumps, and it's a shame. It's sad.
They love you.
Yes,
There's nothing sad about that. Believe me, as much as we would like to see this disease not be a part of our lives, our families pray for that full time. Just sort of a question off the side. Have you had either of your boys tested?
I had my oldest one tested, but not the youngest one yet. But anytime they're peeing too often, or any little tiny sign we think of, we test their blood sugar. I actually did it last night. The little guy ended up peeing twice in an hour or two, which probably isn't that abnormal. And first thing we thought of is let's test his sugar.
That's what happened with my dog. Honest to goodness, I've had my little Min Pin. Well, I've had him now 11 years, but about almost 3 years ago now, I started to notice some symptoms, and I thought,
Wow.
where have I seen this before? He was lapping up all sorts of water, and of course, just paying his little fool puppy thing off. And I took him to the vet, and I said, I think my dog is a diabetic, and the vet didn't know that I was as well. And he said, well, what makes you think that? And I said, well, the book of diabetes says, and sure as heck, I was right. But it's amazing. He's a diabetes alert animal, which I guess now makes me a diabetes alert human. Because it's insulin and snacks all the way around in my house.
Wow. We also have a diabetic alert dog.
You do?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we got it about 5 years ago when it was all new. And she worked great. In fact, the first year we got her, we got her mostly for the nighttime lows, and the first year we got her, my wife didn't wake up one time from a low blood sugar. She slept next to me on the floor. She would wake up. She would alert me. We'd go to the kitchen. I'd reward her. I would eat my snack. We'd go back to bed, and my wife would never know. And if I overate, an hour or two later, she would wake me up again. I would test again, and I'd be high. So now I'd give insulin and reward her and go back to bed again. So for a full year, my wife did not wake up one time from a high or a low blood sugar at night. But
well, it's
since the CGM technology has gotten better, we're sort of retiring her. She's in the retirement process right now. She was getting up maybe 5-8 alerts a day, high, low. Now with the CGM and everything, we see it coming. I have much better control, so she may get 2 or 3 a week. So we're letting her be more of a dog now.
I have a similar situation to you. I can sleep right through my CGM.
Yeah.
But it's really tough to sleep through Sammy. That's a very cold, wet muzzle, and boy, that one gets me. Anyway.
I don't sleep through her, but I reward her without even remembering. I wake up an hour later, and she's out there with her toy that I somehow got her.
Oh, Dad.
Subconsciously.
Well, Jim, I want to thank you for taking your time to chat with us today. Jim, if our listeners would like to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook. I know I have probably more friends on Facebook with busted pancreases than I do with healthy ones. So if they want to they want to find me on there, Jim Murray. Usually they send a request, and we have about 100 mutual friends, so I know right off the bat why the friendship came.
Especially after November, with everybody turning their
Oh,
page
yeah.
blue.
Oh, yeah.
That made
You're
it
right.
really easy to pick up diabetics. Never
You're
in my
absolutely
life
right,
did I
Bonnie.
think I'd be out picking up diabetics.
Yeah,
Jim,
you're
thank you
right.
so very much, and I wish you and your family only the best. And rock on.
Thank you, Bonnie. It's a pleasure.
Take care now. Bye-bye. Well, it's about that time when I get onto my soapbox. And first, I'd like to give a shout out to President Barack Obama for taking executive action, for standing up and doing something, to doing what he can do to curtail this incredible rate and increase in gun violence in this country. The president's horror and frustration and deep sorrow literally flowed down his face as he was telling the nation of his decision. When he mentioned the words, the first graders, he's a wonderful man. In the Jewish religion and in Yiddish, there is a word that is chen, which means that somebody has a lot of heart. Well, this is a man with a lot of chen, and bottom line, the man's a mensch. And I support my president, and I thank him. Next, my shout down. Well, Big Pharma, you're about to get it from me again. Not only are you gouging ill people, but now you found a way, raking in all these billions of dollars to avoid paying taxes. Well, it seems that Americans pay approximately 40% more for prescriptions than the Canadians, who are the most expensive industrialized country after us. The federal government gives billions in government contracts to companies like Pfizer, which has hundreds of billions in unpaid taxes stashed offshore. And then we have those sort of scummy, sleazy CEOs like Pharma Bro, Martin Shkreli, who's gouging customers for life-saving medications. This can't go on. It has to stop. This report was according to Michael Langenmeyer of the Daily Cause. Now, if you have an opinion, please visit my blog at bonniesher.com/blog. Go ahead and sound off. Well, I have a nose itch. That's our show for today. I want to thank you all for being here with me, and I invite you to come back and spend another 50-minute trip through the land of Bonnie, of boomers, and of the T1 community. Until then, please visit bonniesher.com and follow the #1 Bonnie Sher on Twitter. And like Bonnie Sings Lena Facebook fan page. I would also like to take a second to thank Corey Bone of Crown and Anchor Jewelry for outfitting me today with this beautiful freshwater pearl and gold drop necklace. See, it does things, and it gets longer, and it gets shorter, and it's another beautiful piece of Corey Bone's work. So if you would like to find out more about that, go right to my website at bonniesher.com. Click at the bottom. You will see Crown and Anchor Jewelry, and that'll take you right to Corey Bone's site. That's my show for today. And for those of you old friends, and now for my new friends, you probably or may know that Sammy Davis Jr. was a major force in my career and in my life. And as my friend. And if by any chance there were speakers by the pearly gates, well, Sammy, this one's for you, Mr. D. Take us out.
Whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, whether I find a place in this world or never belong, I gotta be me. I gotta be me. What else can I be but what I am? I want to live, not merely survive. And I won't give up this dream of life that keeps me alive. I gotta be me. I gotta be me. The dream that I see makes me what I am. That faraway prize, a world of success, is waiting for me if I heed the call. I won't settle down, won't settle for less, as long as there's a chance that I can have it all. I'll go it alone, that's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me. I gotta be free. I've gotta be free. Daring to try to do it or die. I've gotta be me. I'll go it alone. That's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me.